By 1945, Germany possessed some of the most advanced military technology on Earth. The Third Reich fielded giant tanks with armor thicker than anything the Allies possessed. It launched the world's first ballistic missile. German engineers produced jet aircraft, guided bombs, and experimental submarines that appeared decades ahead of their time. Yet Germany still lost catastrophically. The reason was not merely military defeat on the battlefield, it was economic collapse. Behind the propaganda films and dramatic battlefield photographs stood a bankrupt war economy drowning in debt, fuel shortages, labor crises, transportation breakdowns, and industrial chaos. The so-called Wunderwaffen or wonder weapons became symbols of technological ambition disconnected from economic reality. Hitler increasingly gambled on prestige projects that consumed gigantic quantities of steel, fuel, explosives, factory labor, and money, while delivering little strategic return. The lesson is brutally modern. Nazi Germany entered World War II with an economy already under strain. The regime had rearmed at extraordinary speed during the 1930s, but much of that expansion relied on hidden borrowing, deficit spending, and financial manipulation. Hitler's government financed rearmament through massive public debt while disguising the true scale of military expenditures. But this system had limits. Germany lacked many critical raw materials needed for a long war: oil, rubber, copper, and high-quality iron ore. The country depended heavily on imports and conquest to sustain industrial growth. Hitler's strategy was based on rapid victories that would seize resources before Germany's financial weaknesses became fatal. This worked in Poland and France, but it failed against the Soviet Union, Britain, and eventually the United States. Once the war became global and prolonged, Germany faced an impossible economic equation. The Reich had to finance gigantic military operations while fighting industrial superpowers with vastly larger economies. By 1943, the United States alone was outproducing Germany in nearly every major industrial category: aircraft, trucks, ships, oil, and explosives. Germany could not win a production war through quantity. So Hitler increasingly searched for miracle solutions. That search led directly to the economic insanity of the wonder weapons. The V-2 rocket remains one of the most famous weapons of World War II. Technologically, it was astonishing. It was the world's first long-range guided ballistic missile. The V-2 represented an engineering breakthrough decades ahead of its time. Economically, however, it was catastrophic. The V-2 program consumed approximately 2 billion Reichsmarks. Some modern estimates place the real economic cost far higher when labor, infrastructure, transportation, and slave labor systems are included. Germany built around 6,000 V-2 rockets. Each missile carried roughly 1 ton of explosives. The strategic effect was minimal. The rockets killed several thousand civilians in Britain and Belgium, but they caused nowhere near the destruction achieved by conventional Allied bombing campaigns. Worse, the V2 had terrible accuracy. It was essentially a terror weapon. The economic comparison is devastating. The resources used for the V2 program could have produced tens of thousands of fighter aircraft, massive quantities of anti-aircraft guns, more locomotives, trucks, and vast ammunition stockpiles. From military economic perspective, the V2 was irrational. The rocket consumed precision engineering capacity, rare fuels, transportation resources, and skilled labor, all for a weapon with almost no strategic value. This was not industrial efficiency. It was prestige spending during a national collapse. The Tiger tank became one of the most feared armored vehicles of the war. It possessed thick armor, a powerful 88mm gun, and excellent long-range firepower. On the battlefield, Tigers could destroy Allied tanks at extreme distances. But war is not won by isolated battlefield moments. War is won by logistics, production scale, fuel supply, maintenance, and transportation. A Tiger was a disaster in all those categories. A single Tiger tank cost roughly 300,000 Reichsmarks. Some estimates place the total operation cost much higher after accounting for maintenance and logistics. Germany produced only about 1,340 Tiger I tanks. Compare that to the Soviet T-34 production, over 57,000 T-34s produced during the war. The Tiger required enormous industrial efforts, complex manufacturing, precision machining, massive fuel consumption, and extensive maintenance crews. It was also mechanically unreliable. The tank's enormous weight caused constant breakdowns. Many Tigers were abandoned not because enemy fire destroyed them, but because they simply broke down or ran out of fuel. This is where economics becomes decisive. A weapon that cannot be easily repaired, fueled, transported, or mass-produced becomes an industrial burden rather than an asset. Germany's obsession with quality over quantity created a fatal imbalance. The Reich poured scarce industrial capacity into elite machines while the Allies optimized for scale, standardization, and logistics. The Tiger symbolized Germany's growing inability to think economically. The question was no longer how powerful is this weapon. The real question was how many can we build, sustain, fuel, and replace. Germany never solved that problem. As the war deteriorated, Hitler became increasingly obsessed with gigantic weapons projects. These projects consumed resources far beyond their military value. Meanwhile, Germany desperately lacked trucks, fuel, replacement tanks, locomotives, and infantry equipment. When nations can no longer compete effectively, leaders often turn toward symbolic mega projects intended to restore morale and project power. But prestige cannot replace production efficiency. World War II ultimately became a contest of industrial systems. Germany initially excelled at operational warfare, fast offensives, tactical coordination, and elite military doctrine. But long wars are decided by economics. The United States approached the war differently. American industry prioritized standardization, mass production, repairability, and scale. The Sherman tank was inferior to the Tiger in one-on-one combat, but the comparison misses the point. The Sherman was cheaper, easier to repair, easier to transport, and faster to produce. A destroyed Sherman could often be replaced within days. A destroyed Tiger represented a major industrial loss. The same pattern existed across the entire German war economy. Germany built technically impressive weapons. The Allies built sustainable systems. That difference decided the war. The Allies understood something Germany increasingly ignored. Destroy the enemy economy, and the military eventually collapses with it. Strategic bombing campaigns targeted oil, railroads, industrial centers, and transportation hubs. The objective was not simply destruction, it was economic paralysis. Germany's war economy relied heavily on interconnected industrial systems. Once transportation collapsed, factories could not receive materials or distribute finished products. Wonder weapons worsened the problem because they required specialized components, precision manufacturing, and complicated supply chains. Simpler weapons are easier to sustain during economic stress. So why did Germany continue investing in economically irrational weapons? Part of the answer was psychological. Prestige projects create the illusion of control during crisis. Advanced technology becomes politically seductive because it promises miraculous solutions. One weapon, one breakthrough, one technological leap. This thinking bypasses harder economic realities. Hitler increasingly believed technological shock weapons could reverse strategic collapse. But technology cannot compensate for exhausted industrial capacity. The true cost of Germany's wonder weapons was not simply measured in Reichsmarks. It was measured in opportunity cost. Every V-2 rocket meant fewer fighters, fewer anti-aircraft guns, and fewer trucks. Every giant prestige project distorted the broader war economy. Germany's leadership increasingly allocated resources based on political symbolism rather than economic efficiency. They were symptoms of desperation. In the end, Germany was not simply defeated militarily. It was outproduced, outfinanced, and economically strangled. The real superweapons of World War II was not the rocket or the Tiger tank. It was industrial capacity backed by sustained finance. This is the enduring lesson. Nations do not win modern wars merely by building impressive weapons. They win by building systems their economies can actually sustain. I hope you enjoyed this episode. To make sure you don't miss my future work, subscribe to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.